So recently somebody asked a question about the difference between local and online relationships and when you sort of get those things out of balance, and just some advice in sort of maintaining or developing both. And this is a really interesting question to me because I've just had a very interesting experience in just my recent past where both those relationships ended up playing a really big role, but in kind of different ways. So to start from the beginning, I'd gotten to a point where I had a lot of friends all across the country because of my travel and because of my work, but I felt like I really was missing some connections locally. So I felt like I really needed to address that, and I worked hard to sort of build some relationships and make some new ones. And I actually formed a group of men that met early in the morning every other week and sort of shared with each other and talked about what we were doing and helped us maintain our goals, and we kind of called it a little accountability sort of mastermind group. And those relationships ended up becoming pretty deep and really important locally. At the same time, I had a really good friend who I was very far apart from. He lived in Texas, I live in Virginia, but we were talking really regularly and having a lot of communication. And it was interesting because I got to see some differences between those two. With the friends that I was meeting with locally, we were having a lot of deep conversation, a lot of live interaction, but sort of interspersed, right? We wouldn't talk very much, and then we'd talk a whole lot every other week. With my friend that was farther away, we were having much longer conversations and often more frequently, just because of maybe the communication medium, phone calls and things like that. Well, I went through some tragedy, and my wife got pregnant and ended up being pregnant with twins, and then we lost both twins. And what was really interesting was in that time period how both of those relationships ended up being really a blessing in different ways. For my friend who was in Texas, he became somebody that I talked to fairly regularly and would frequently text me and just say, "How you doing? And I want to let you know that I'm praying for you." And he became kind of this steady presence that was always willing to listen or to offer some perspective or just offer some prayers and give me that kind of mental boost and also that encouragement that really helped me through in many important ways. But locally, the guys from that accountability group that I met with, they came to the hospital, and they were there as we had to go through the really painful procedures and everything that happened. They were in the waiting room praying the entire time. When things went really badly wrong and we had to make some really difficult decisions, they were there. I actually walked out the door from the hospital into that waiting room. They put their arms around me, prayed with me, and then gave really solid advice at the moment and in the time. And then physically, hugged me, grabbed my hand, slapped me in the shoulder, and sent me back in to make the decisions and do the things that we had to do. And then they were the folks that brought the meals and followed up and visited and made sure that we were doing well as we recovered from all of that. And I left with a profound sense of gratefulness for both of those relationships, that they worked in different ways, in ways that I didn't quite even understand until they were pressured with some sort of crisis that was there. And so as I think about that, I think my challenge would be that both of those are really important. Both takes investment and both take time. But if you have all online, you'll miss that really critical, there for you physically present type of relationships that you get locally. On the other hand, if you just go with local relationships, you'll miss the opportunity to have a really deep communication type relationship with people who may not live in your immediate area. And ultimately, both of those are really important to keep in mind and to keep balanced.
So now I'm curious to hear from you. Which do you find easier, online or live relationships? And at this point in your life, which do you have more of right now, online or live relationships? And what advice would you have about maintaining each of those kinds of relationships?